President Christy Santos here with Windermere. We love real estate and supporting our community.
Between property showings, we love to stop at our favorite businesses, talk with local owners, and bring their stories to you.
This is Our Bellevue Eastside.
Well, hello there, friends. The Cowboys here once again with another interview for you today. This is going to be a good one today if you've been thinking about going on a trip or a vacation and doing some travel with the family. You'll want to pay attention today because today we have Dean Kato here from World Travel Agency here in the Bellevue area. Dean, welcome to Bellevue Eastside.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. So maybe we can start out just about letting the audience know a little bit about you, like where you're from, where'd you grow up, how long have you been in the area?
Great. Grew up in Seattle, went to Rainier Beach High School, University of Washington, lived here on the east side for about 12 years. Kids grew up here in the Bellevue area, and we consider ourselves to be fortunate to be residents here.
That's awesome. So now how many kids do you have altogether?
We have 2 kids, 3.5 grandkids.
So 3.5, one on the way. That's awesome. Well, congratulations on
Thank you.
that. So, so you're living in the east side here, you're working on the east side. You've had quite a career doing a lot of things and serving on a lot of boards. Maybe you can share with us a little bit about this path and how you got into travel.
So most of my career, 40 years worth, involved travel around the world in the aerospace industry. So I sold things to anybody who made airplanes, which included companies like Boeing and Airbus, and also Embraer in Brazil, Bombardier in Canada, and lots of other companies and people around the world. And so all of that over the course of my career totaled about 4 million miles of time in airplanes getting from place to place. And I felt like at the end of that work, to stay active, it would be fun to continue in the travel mode and to help people travel well. So my wife and I have been to a little over 60 countries, and half of that in business and half in leisure travel. And so it's nice to be able to talk with people and work with people on what some of their dream vacations and bucket list places are.
Wow, that sounds like a great background because a lot of these places that you're recommending to people can come from firsthand experience and knowledge. So I think that's always an awesome place to start. Somebody I'd be looking for in a travel agent.
Hope so.
So well, from there, let's segue right into that question right there. What should a person look for when they're looking for a travel agent?
Well, the industry has changed quite a bit over the years. People used to go to travel agents to book most travel, and anymore a lot of it is very commoditized, where it's very commonplace now to go to what's called an online travel agency or OTA like Travelocity or Expedia and to book your own travel. And that's mostly true for air and hotels and rental cars. And so most people are going to figure out on their own how they want to do those kinds of trips. There are aspects of travel, though, that agents or advisors still get involved with, and there's a list on our website of things like adventure travel or baby moons or other things that are specialized. Our daughter's going on a baby moon in a couple of weeks. But what we focus on in our agency are 2 different areas that we feel can benefit a lot from advisors still being involved. One is in cruises and luxury cruises, and the other is we enjoy and have a passion for sending people to the Holy Land. And so we like to work with groups to customize travel. It could be a week or 2 to travel in Israel, Jordan, Egypt. And right now, unfortunately, as of a month ago, most of that tourism travel has been stopped because of the circumstances and the violence there. But our planning really has not. And so anything that is mid next year in 2024 or later, we're still continuing planning for, with our best hopes that there'll be a normalcy that the area returns to.
Well, let's hope and pray that that is so. So Well, let's whet everybody's appetite a little bit. Let's say everything gets back to normal in the Middle East there, in Israel. What are some of your favorite things to do on these Holy Land tours and stops?
I used to travel there regularly for business, and so the business centers there of Haifa and Tel Aviv are regular big cities like you see throughout Europe or the Middle East. The areas that we focus on for the tours, though, are on the eastern side of the country, and so they'll include visits to Jericho and the Dead Sea, to Jerusalem, Tiberias. They often as well go to some of the Holy Lands in Jordan, which would include places like Petra. So a lot of history there, Nabatean cultures and so on. So these are the kinds of trips that I think are really suitable to groups because it requires a fair amount of coordination and understanding of where you're going, and it's difficult to do a do-it-yourself kind of tour of the Holy Lands as opposed to having a very qualified guide to show you around the area.
Well, that's one trip that Christy and I have always wanted to take, and we might have to be talking to you about one of those trips sometime in the near future.
Great.
So part of these trips to the Holy Land, do you branch off that a little bit and go down to Greece where some of the apostles were and stuff like that?
So there are different flavors of this, and yes, you could spend a month or more really going to Paul's journeys in Rome, to different areas in Turkey, in Ephesus. Greece is a big one where there's a very large, vibrant Coptic church. So it involves a lot of areas in the Middle East, beyond just going to Israel.
I was doing a little research and it seemed like there was over 20 different travel categories. So when a family or a group comes to you and they want to put together a vacation or some kind of travel, is there a process you go through with them to help them determine what would be best for them and their group or their family?
I usually spend quite a bit of time on a first interview, and obviously budget is often a big issue or a constraint. But beyond that, what I like to discuss with people is what has been on their bucket list, what's of interest, and is it more pointed toward adventure things? Do you want a hiking or a bicycling trip? Do you want to see Antarctica or the North Pole? Are you interested in culinary trips? So the first work that we do, the first interview, involves these kinds of questions to figure out where do you want to go, how much can you spend, what are you interested in doing once you get there.
A culinary trip sounds kind of good and delicious. So
it can be. My wife and I next month are going to Barcelona, and a part of that trip is we're taking a paella tour.
Ooh.
And so hopefully some lessons on how to cook paella as well as experiencing it throughout the city.
Do they have one of those for like Italy up in near Tuscany or?
Absolutely. Italy is a very, very large culinary destination, and they have different regions with different types of pizza that they make, obviously, a lot of different seafood. So I would say quite a few people do travel to different cities in Italy specifically to experience what they have for culinary treats.
So you had one that I know that some of my kids and myself, when I was in my youth, some of these adventure vacations, what are those like and include?
Those often have to do with, stretching yourself. So you mentioned earlier the Blue Hole in Belize, and so diving is one of the more popular activities. Mountain climbing can be. If you were to take a trip to Antarctica, that would fit under the adventure mode, where it's more about zodiacs and kayaks than it is about swimming pools and casinos, taking a cruise down there. So it can be any number of different types of activities, but it's more focused on the activity itself, oftentimes, than where you're going.
So would an activity vacation also include golf?
Absolutely. There's an organization called Perry Golf, and that's really what they do is they curate trips so that if you came to me and said, I want to golf in Scotland, we would set up an entire tour for you focused around golf in Scotland. So that's one example of adventure and what would be possible for golf as one category of adventure.
Okay, and then under the adventure, sorry, I always love adventure, but could you actually help people to connect with outfitters for like hunting or fishing type of things, or is that?
We do. Actually, one of the areas of growing interest right now is safari.
Nice.
In Africa. Most of these are photo safaris, not hunting safaris, although they are available. So yes, we can make connections or do all of the organization to get you to the destination, to depending on what you are hunting and how, and get everything back.
Nice. Now I have a question out of curiosity. Where's your daughter going for her baby moon? What's a baby moon vacation look like?
Baby moon for them is Hawaii.
Is it?
Yes.
Just time to relax and get into some warmer weather?
Time to relax and leave their other child with their grandparents.
Lucky you.
Lucky us. Yeah.
So your main focus and where you consider your wheelhouse then are these Holy Land tours, right? And travel tours like that. And then you mentioned that you also enjoy doing cruises, and I understand that there's like basically 3 types of cruises. We have luxury ocean cruise, luxury river, and expedition, which is a new category. Right. So maybe you could break down each of those for us.
Yeah, you've done your homework, Dan. Cruises are about 75% of our business.
Wow.
And there are over 30 different cruise lines that focus on the US market. So there are a lot of them. And historically, when you hear about things like the Love Boat and Princess Cruises, those are ocean cruises that have been around for mainstream consumption over 50 years. And so they're the kinds of boats that you may think of, that you take cruises up to Alaska from Seattle or Vancouver, cruises around Europe and the Baltic or the Mediterranean. A newer category of cruise are river cruises. So they're smaller ships that are designed specifically for rivers like the Rhine or the Danube, some the Mekong Delta in Southeast Asia. And so they may be ships that hold 50 to 150 people instead of 5,000 people that may be on a larger ocean ship. And then that third category you mentioned of expedition cruises, relatively new to the industry. And these may be icebreaker type ships that are designed to go to the North and South Pole. They may be ships that are designed to stay and operate in the Galapagos Islands. So this type of cruise, the expedition cruise, can also fit in that adventure category of travel.
Oh, very interesting. If I was a few years younger, I'd be choosing one of those. I do know that Christie's folks went on one of the river cruises down the Danube, and they really enjoyed it. And so I would invite, based off of that experience from family there, that you talk to Dean about something like that. So.
It's a great location. Actually, there's classically what they call the Upper and Lower Danube. So Upper Danube runs from parts of Europe down to Budapest, and then from there to the southeast are many countries that we historically have not had access to because they're part of what was the Soviet bloc. And so when you think of countries like Romania and Croatia and so on, they're some of the more exotic locations for cruising. Let's say ocean cruises take you from country to country, and river cruises take you within the countries. And so they're smaller ships, they stop frequently at cities, and so river cruising is a great way to get to know a region better.
So, out of all the cruises you've taken, which has been your favorite?
It's hard to name a favorite. We've done about 30 cruises on 7 cruise lines. And so I would say possibly our favorite ocean cruise was in the Baltic, where we got to see Scandinavian countries and spend a couple days in St. Petersburg as well in Russia. And probably our favorite river cruise was on the Danube. So,
Really?
and spending time in Budapest there.
Wow, a Scandinavian cruise would be very interesting. So what about a non-cruise? What's been your favorite? Do you have a favorite country that you like to go back to? I'm sure they're all good.
Well, you mentioned Scandinavian roots, and my roots are from Japan. And so we go these days every couple of years back to Japan. Travel is quite different now compared to pre-COVID. You may have heard the term revenge travel, and it really doesn't have to do with revenge, except maybe revenge against COVID. And so there's been a very high resurgence and a big demand for travel in general, and many locations are sold out into the summer of next year. So for instance, if you wanted to see cherry blossoms in Japan, it'd be very difficult to get tickets at this point for next March or April because of the popularity of travel. And the industry is also suffering from the lack of staffing and people that many other industries are. And so hotels don't have enough people to run hotels. Airlines are charging more, you may have noticed, for flights, in part because they don't have enough people to operate as well. And so the demand right now is outpacing the supply on a lot of aspects of travel.
And that's across the whole hospitality industry,
That's
right?
correct,
Hotels.
yes. It's true within the
travel.
United States, it's true internationally, true in the cruise industry, that demand is outpacing the supply.
Okay. Question I have for you, are there times that you recommend if somebody says, I'd like to do a European vacation, or I want to go to the Holy Land? Is there time frames that you think are better for those trips, like winter, summer, or just any time year round?
Well, a lot of it has to do with whether or not you like crowds. Because if you go to Europe in July or August, you're going to be in there with millions of your best friends. It may also make sense from a budget standpoint to go on what's referred to as shoulder season or off season. So fall, winter, spring in Europe is probably less expensive and easier to travel around than the summer would be. And one thing to keep in mind is that the seasons flip depending on the northern or southern hemisphere. So it's November right now, but it's just getting to be summer in Australia or in Brazil. So that may dictate some of when you want to or don't want to go. So right now, though, because of the great demand, in the last year there almost has not been an off season. So it's been very popular, busy, and expensive to many, many destinations.
So as a trusted advisor, though, if I tell you, Dean, I'd like to take a trip to Japan this month, is that something where you would say, well, Dan, if you took it next month, you could catch the cherry blossoms. We just need to find out if we can get you some tickets for that. You know, or do you make recommendations based on things you know about that area for people?
Yes, so having traveled there, I have some of my own hotels that I have good relationships with that I could get you into, which might otherwise be sold out.
Oh, that's
so hopefully that's one of the values of having a good advisor.
An inside connector, we like that a lot. Any other types of vacations that you're fond of or that you do a lot of?
Well, we like Hawaii a lot, and so I used to live there for several years, and so some of it is going back to see friends, but it's always nice when the weather's like this in Seattle and it's rainy in November and to be able to walk off the airplane and it's 80 and sunny.
Gotta love that. So what else should we know about World Travel Agency that maybe we haven't talked about here today?
Well, these are the two areas that we focus on: our cruises, on any of the categories of cruises, and on these group trips to Holy Land. So if your church or other group is interested in agriculture or history or faith-based travel, we focus on those areas. Also, one of the things we spoke a little bit earlier about was how to choose a travel agent or travel advisor. And what I think I found is that, like so many other industries, word of mouth works very well. That if friends of yours have gone on cruises that they like or have had advisors help them with travel, that's likely going to be one of the better choices you can make. There are also certifications that are available, just like in the real estate industry. And so I belong to the American Society of Travel Advisors, or ASTA. So ASTA has a website where they show their certified agents that work through and affiliate with them as an organization. So it can be helpful to have some of those kinds of criteria to be able to choose somebody who is trustworthy.
So some of those organizations that you just described, is it kind of like real estate where you have continuing education credits to stay on top of those?
Yes.
Thanks.
So I just had to recently recertify. It's an annual process and procedure with ASTA, and the same is true for there's a cruise line industry, there are other alphabet soup of different types of organizations in the travel industry. The go-to that we utilize is the U.S. Department of State travel site. And so they have the most up-to-date recommendations for things like whether there's political unrest somewhere. We work with the ministries of tourism, so we work with the Israeli and Jordanian Ministry of Tourism to understand their recommendations as well. But for U.S. travelers in particular, we mostly steer toward the Department of State website.
Very
and their
good.
information.
So you can help keep people safe while they're planning their trips.
Right.
That's awesome. I like that a lot. So, is there anything else we should know about you personally? You got any special hobbies outside of travel and work?
No, it involves more travel. I'm a pilot. And
I didn't know that about you.
so it's I was a frustrated military pilot wannabe and didn't make the cut, and so now I'm a civilian private pilot.
So what kind of aircraft are you flying?
Oh, I only rent Cessnas and Beechcraft, small airplanes.
Okay. I just wondered if we're going to see you landing in Jackson Hole in one of those later jets.
Not as a pilot. No.
Well, very good. Well, Dean, it's been a real pleasure having you here today and sharing a little bit with us about what you do and what to look for in a travel agent. And I think people will see enough of this to hopefully give you a call and say, hey, Dean, book me for a Holy Land trip or get me on a cruise. I want to go.
Thank you, appreciate it. Dan, appreciate everything that you and Christy do for the community as well.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thank you, Dean. Be blessed. Well, it sounds like you found something that you can do for the rest of your days of retirement and enjoy it.
Yes, yeah.
Right?
For us, when I was trying to discern, so Charlene has her own things that she's involved with, but using travel, and for most people, if you're interested in going somewhere, the chances are good we've been there, and this is a way to subsidize our own addiction to travel, really. So, yeah, the majority, truly, I have found that getting clients off the street is never as productive as word of mouth.